looking at page 14, at exercise 3.4. This is down toward the bottom of the page. We're going to do this little scale. So we go from low A to B to C to D to E to F, and then back down to E and down to D. But we're going to have a G grace note in between each note. So if you've been doing other exercises up till now in this kind of style, it's time to start breaking that habit. We're going to do a constant flow of air. And with G grace notes in between. So G grace notes, just that finger blipping, just a little blip, a little beep from that pointer finger on the top hand. So we're going to do it really slow. We'll move together. We're going to play low A, and then I'll do a little movement here, so we can go low A, G grace note to B, G grace note to C, and we'll just try to stick together, okay? We're going to kind of open G grace notes this first time through, and we'll kind of tighten it up as we go. We'll do it 2 or 3 times. Here we go. Okay, let's pause a sec, and we're going to go through this in slow motion, okay? So, we're on low A, and we're going to go to B, okay? When do these fingers move? I'm going to give you my explanation of the way that I tell my students to do it and the way I do it, but here's the thing. We are definitely entering, we're on the very outer edges of some very contested waters, if you will. There are different theories, and so let me just stress one more time. If your pipe major says to do it a different way than what I'm saying, do what your pipe major says. If you're taking private lessons and your teacher says to do it different than what I'm doing, do what your teacher says. Ultimately, some of these things, like, I could be absolutely wrong if the majority of the bagpiping community says, no, we do it this way, perfectly fine. As far as I can tell, though, you can find people from a long time ago and from today arguing for different theories just all throughout. So take all of this as one way to think of it, one way to do it, okay? And if you hear differently, that's okay. And just, choose what works best for you. But what works best for you in a band is always what the pipe major says. So that's important to keep in mind, okay? So if we had a steady metronome beat here, and we were just playing that scale, of course we go A, B, C, D, right? The note change would happen right on the beat. So the question is, does the grace note happen right on the beat where that tap of my foot would be when the grace note is sounding? Or does that tap of my foot line up with where the next note starts? Okay, this is it. This is the hot topic, right? Okay, here's what I'm about to say. Here's what I'm about to say, and it might make waves so don't argue with your pipe major about this, just do what your pipe major says, but here's what I would say. What stayed true without grace notes remains true with grace notes. In other words, if you're looking at this scale that we're playing exercise 3.4, the first beat is right when that low A starts. Bam, low A. The next beat lines up perfectly when we're on that B. Bam, we're on a B, okay? Bam, we're on a C, okay? And that means that grace note has to happen just before the beat. Bagpipers who I know and respect a lot, who know a lot more than me, do this differently. They play their embellishments on the beat, and that's perfectly fine. It's just 2 different ways of doing it, and like for reals, it's perfectly fine. So this is the way I do it. It's not something you have to worry about too bad right now because we're just kind of moving through this exercise to get used to the finger movement. But just to let's set that out there. Don't take me as if I'm saying this is the only way to do it and everybody else is wrong. I'm absolutely not. But this is the reason why I think this way is this evolutionary way of seeing music. If this is true with just the melody line, then this is how it's going to work with the grace notes, and this is going to come into play later with more complicated embellishments as well, so I'll bring it up again later. So here we go, super slow motion. A, now what's happening with our fingers, okay? Our G grace note comes up, but our lower hand has not moved to B yet. Okay, just the G-Gracenote finger is up. Then the G-Gracenote finger begins to come down, and in the exact same instant that that G-Gracenote finger touches the chanter, your finger that's making it so your chanter plays A comes up so that your chanter is playing B. Okay, it's just in the blink of an eye, like less than a blink of an eye. It's like very tight. We're on A, G-Gracenote blip, G-Gracenote's coming back down. Right when it hits B. You see what I mean? A, G-Gracenote blip starts coming down right when it's about to make contact with the chanter. It makes contact right when the other finger breaks away. Okay? Just like note-to-note transitions, like we were talking about before when you have multiple fingers moving, like if we're going from A to C, that pinky's coming down, and right when that pinky makes contact, those two middle fingers pop up. Okay? It's exactly the same idea but with grace notes. Okay? And the grace notes just are happening fast, so don't get overwhelmed by this. You're just kind of, I'm explaining it, but don't feel like you have to understand this and do it perfectly before you play the exercise. It's one of those things that you kind of get the feel of it by doing it as well. So here's sort of the theory behind it, but then we're going to do it and you'll get it. Don't feel stressed out about it. So if we're looking at from B to C, that's a little more complicated because just to play from B to C, our middle finger needs to come up and our pinky needs to go down. But now we're adding to that a G-Gracenote. So if we're on B, the G-Gracenote comes up, and right when that G-Gracenote finger is about to make contact with the chanter again, right when it makes contact, that's when the magic happens in the lower hand going from B to C. So that pointer finger playing the G-Gracenote makes contact, so does the pinky, and the middle finger comes off of the chanter. So all in the same instant, we go from B to playing B with a G-Gracenote up in the air to C, okay? Okay, so once again, we have dangerous territory for crossovers here, because what if I'm playing a B, then the G-Gracenote comes up, and then the G-Gracenote comes down before my lower hand switches to C? Then it sounds like this. That's in super slow-mo. Here it is faster. It could sound kind of cool, but you're not allowed to do that until you get the rules. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've heard that said of Picasso, that he's so good at his cubism, at his abstract painting, because he understood the rules first. I don't know if that's a real quote or if it's just something people say, but you gotta learn the rules first, and then you can start breaking them. So we're learning the rules right now. So from B to C, we want it to be clean like this. Here comes into slow-mo. Okay, so let's just try tackling this whole line. Okay, let's see how it goes now after that explanation. Okay, we're going nice and slow, starting on low A, nice and slow. That's a hard transition right there. That's a lot of stuff going on. That last one was kind of messy, so I got distracted because my screen went dark. So that last transition was a bit messy. I ended up going... and got a little bit of a crossing noise there. So you got to watch for those. Those are definitely, it's hard to weed those out. And so don't get discouraged if it happens sometimes right now. It happened to me just now, you know, and all you can do is kind of go, oh, darn it, go back and clean it up and move on. So let's see, a really hard one. Let's look closer at that transition from D to E, okay? So first, let's just do that transition. Let's just play that a few times, okay? So we're going to go D to E, right? D, we have the top hand is all covered. Lower hand has the pinky covered, but these three fingers are all in the air. Then when we go to E, we're switching. The bottom hand switches completely. These three fingers come down and the pinky comes up, but also this ring finger comes up. So the ring finger and the pinky are attached, and these three fingers are attached. And all at the same time, boom. Okay, all at the same time. So let's play that a couple times. D to E. again. And we're avoiding this kind of sound. We don't want that crossing sound. Let's do it one more time. Okay, so now we add the G-Gracenote into that. We've got D, then the G-Gracenote comes up, so pointer finger comes up, and then all the other stuff is still happening. Pinky is still attached to ring finger, these 3 fingers are still attached, but now this pointer finger is also attached to these 3 fingers. So we go from D to G-Gracenote on D, and then as these 3 fingers come down and these 2 fingers are coming up, this pointer finger comes down with these 3 as well. So they're all coming down, and at the same instant they make contact. These 4 fingers make contact with the chanter, and these 2 come off. Okay? It sounds just like Peter Pan. Let's do that progression one more time together. We'll start from really, really slow and work it up to a normal speed, okay? It's just your pointer finger. Remember, we're not playing G, we're playing a G-Gracenote. Okay, let's go back now and do that line again. Here we go, nice and slow. Okay, let's break down one more of these and then we'll do the line a bit faster. We're going to do the same one we just barely broke down from D to E, but we're going to go from E to D, because going backwards, you'd think, oh, I've got it going one way, I can do it the other way, but at least in my experience, it's always harder going the other way, and usually the other way is down, and down is always harder. So we're going to go from E to D with a G-Gracenote in between, okay? So we've got E, top hand has the ring finger up, bottom hand has the pinky finger up, everything else is down, okay? E, and then the ring finger and pinky are attached, so they come down together. And these 3 fingers are attached, so they come up together. E, D. Maybe if I get my pinky out of the way, it's helpful. E, D. E, D. Let's play it a couple times. I had a little bit of a crossing noise there. It was really light, but if you heard it, good on you. That was a bit of a crossing sound. Okay, here we go again. E to D. Two more. Last one. Okay, so now we're adding the G-Gracenote in there. So we've got E, then G-Gracenote finger comes up, and now it is attached to this ring finger and this pinky, so they're all going to come down together, okay? So these 2 are up, G-Gracenote finger comes up, they're all going to go down together, but at the same instant, these 3 fingers are going to come up. Okay, so all 3 of these fingers are coming down, and then the other 3 fingers come up. Got it? All are up. All are up, then all are down. But these 3 are up. Sorry, I wish I had like 2 voices so I could say 2 things at the same time. So E, G-Gracenote finger up, and then the transition to D. We'll do it really slow like that together, and we'll just kind of crank up the tightness until it sounds like a grace note instead of a note. A little crossing the sound there. You might be having the experience that as you move along and try to get faster and faster, your fingers are getting tighter. Again, try to stay relaxed. That will help. You also might be having the experience that your brain is telling your fingers to do the right things, but then your fingers are doing something like this. That's okay. It's totally normal. Just try to stay relaxed and break it down really slow like we've been doing with any of these transitions from note to note. Play the first note, lift that G-Gracenote finger, and then go to the second note. Okay, and just do that over and over again until the time that you're spending with that G-Gracenote finger in the air can get shorter and shorter and shorter. Like that. And don't ever get down on yourself because this is kind of hard. It takes some time. But what you're learning stacks. So if you learn it right now, your G-Gracenotes, then your D-Gracenotes are going to be way easier. And then your E-Gracenotes will be even easier. And then making them into doublings will be even easier. And then it all rolls from there. So this is I think, even though G-Gracenote is probably the very easiest embellishment to learn, it's also the hardest because it's where you're starting. And from here, it gets more complex, but it also gets easier. So don't ever get discouraged. Okay, we're gonna do that line one more time with really tight grace notes. Here we go.